Well, another Wednesday Night War has passed by, so we're going to talk and review from start to finish from both shows, see who wins this week, but also I'll be throwing some news updates for all of you guys that came on today. So, right now, let's get started with another episode of Deleted WrestleZone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Hey everybody, welcome to Deleted WrestleZone. All things pro wrestling from AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Impact Wrestling, the National Wrestling Alliance, many promotions, matches, wrestlers, and championships. I am your host, J-Rod. So let's get started with the Wednesday Night War with the ratings and views. Now, as you all know, last week was pretty interesting with the ratings and views, but this week, apparently both shows had a dip in their ratings and views. So right now, let's see who won this week. And the winner is AEW Dynamite. So they received 792,000 views. Compared from last week, it was 901,000 views, which I was mistaken from the previous episode on that. So basically, it went down 14% on that. But they received with the rating of 0.32 in the 18 to 49 demographics. As for NXT, they received 619,000 views compared from a week ago with 753,000. So it went even more further, much worse than AEW. They went down 22% on the viewership, and they received a 0.16 in the 18 to 49 demographics. So you can argue all you want about those, but you cannot deny that every time that AEW always wins the ratings, and as the viewerships shows that there has been more views with WWE. Now, a friendly reminder for all of you: this coming Wednesday Night War next week will not happen for reasons. It's already been announced. AEW are moving their shows temporarily to Saturday on August 22nd, which reason is the NBA are having their finals and they need that time slot. So it's not a permanent thing, because of course there have been talk about the recent changes that happened with TNT, Time Warner Media, that type of thing. So it doesn't mean at the end. But the interesting part of this time slot, AEW Dynamite will be competing for NXT TakeOver. Yes, NXT TakeOver 30. So basically, this is going to be an interesting thing. Let's see how this one will turn out. Now, I know for all of you NXT fans are dying to see this event because of the matches that's going to be already being set for this coming takeover. But for now, let's just focus on the previous Wednesday Night War with AEW and NXT. So let's get started with AEW Dynamite. Alright, so let's get started with AEW Dynamite. It started out with the tag team match between the Young Bucks and the Dark Order, Stu Grayson and Evil Uno. Now, this particular event became Tag Team Appreciation Night. But when the Bucks came out of the entrance, they were officially attacked by Alex Reynolds, John Silver, and Alan Angels. 3, 4, and 5 were right there. This was a strategic move by Stu Grayson and Evil Grayson to ensure their win. As you all recall, the Dark Order beat the Elite and FTR in a 12-man tag team match, and they want to ensure they win this one. So practically, you see that the Reynolds, Silver, and Angels were beating them up to ensure the Evil Uno and Grayson win. But of course, there was a lot of great tactics they were trying to do, but it wouldn't stop the Bucks, no matter how many times they were trying to find a way to win. The biggest part is when Matt Jackson jumped over and took out Reynolds, Silver, and Angels, but it was still not enough. What the smartest thing they tried to do is isolate Matt away from Nick. As when Reynolds, Silver, and Angels were on the entrance, making sure Matt doesn't be there. All of a sudden, the biggest shocker was Nick Jackson picking up the win. So basically, their entire strategy went up the toilet. It was surprising. It was the biggest upset for the Dark Order. They just cannot believe this happened. So the Young Bucks win the victory on this one. The next thing we see is another segment with MJF. As you know, MJF has been going out saying that he should be the face of the company. He's been saying that for a long time. He's calling Jon Moxley a dictator, saying he doesn't deserve, he is not a people's champion, he's a dictator. So of course, a week ago, Jon Moxley was in a match in against Darby Allin. But however, MJF nearly caused Jon Moxley the match, but luckily it did not. So basically, this feud between them is now escalating. The more MJF was trying to make a point, MJF was outsmarted. The way it happened, the music turns on, he sent Wardlow and the other goons to the stairways, but out of nowhere, Moxley shows up from behind and attacked them viciously and put him in a paradigm shift. No one did not predict that. So MJF did not think. You knew exactly where you're planning, MJF. You knew he'll be coming the stairways, but you didn't bother thinking of the back. So he took him out, saying that this is far from over between them. So basically, their match will take place in All Out on September 5th. Then we got an interview with Matt. As you know, a week ago, Matt was brutalized by Sammy Guevara. As you know, there was a botch that happened. There was supposed to be a chair, in the other hand, that Sammy grabbed by mistake. It was supposed to be the chair that not made him bleed, but he did bleed out. There were 12 stitches, but Matt's okay. But with the fantastic way, if you guys saw Being the Elite, Matt Hardy decided to go that he's broken. Basically, you don't know who he is. Either the unkillable Matt Hardy, the matter-of-fact Hardy, or is it broken Matt Hardy, or version 1? We don't know. He just acts differently. But he did lose control when he thought he saw Sammy. He attacked the ref. So basically, AEW sent them home and all this and that. So this is a very interesting story how they're going to go, where Matt is no longer being Matt or multiple. He's just like a glitch that it's now broken. You know what I mean? So let's move on. Next match, we had the AEW TNT match between the challenger, Scorpio Sky, and Cody Rhodes. As you know, Scorpio Sky made the challenge a week ago after Cody and longtime friend Matt Cardona defeated the Dark Order, Silver and Reynolds. But the interesting part about this match, we saw a surprise referee who we've been aware of, a 33-year vet as a referee, Mike Chioda. Now, if you guys have been aware, Mike Chioda was amongst the employees from WWE that was released. According to Mike Chioda, he said he was at home going through therapy after suffering an injury. Then all of a sudden they let him go. But surprisingly, he is now with AEW. Now, you can say for all you WWE, for all you haters out there saying they're picking off the leftovers. Maybe so, yes. But Mike Chioda was already ready to go back to WWE. But all of a sudden they let him go. So don't blame them for hiring him. He was good to go, but now he's way ready to go. So the match was amazing between Scorpio Sky and Cody. The idea what this one was, many people already saw the new unveiling of the TNT Championship. As you know, the previous one that we saw was not just the finish. It was still like more the facade or whatever until the new one is complete. And now it was complete. It's amazing. I love the gold look of it. But to me, I feel they need to change the color of the strap. Someone posted on Twitter, and I had to agree with this person. I prefer white. It's a perfect match, But we'll see how that goes. But boy, this match was incredible. I enjoyed it. A lot of pins, a lot of kickouts, amazingly. But of course, there were those who were saying, is Cody still going to remain as the TNT champion? Well, that was yet to be seen. But, of course, it turned out in that way. I'm not sure where they're going to go. I personally would have preferred Scorpio Sky winning the match. But I feel maybe they want to legitimize more of the TNT, make it more prestigious. As you know, some mid-card championships don't get prestigious. They only focus on the world or the championship type. So Cody's trying to legitimize its prestigious, how it is. You know what I mean? So as soon as Cody won the match, he gets a little video message from the Dark Order Exalted One, Mr. Brody Lee. As you recall, 2 weeks ago, when Cody beaten Warhorse, two members of the Dark Order, Alex Reynolds and John Silver, attacked him. But of course, John Silver was not happy that 3 and 4 screwed up, that they couldn't finish the job. So Mr. Brody Lee has now made his shot. He wants a shot of the TNT Championship. But in his possession, he had the old one. He believes that he's going to swap the titles. Giving him the old one, he hands him the new one. So this is a very interesting dynamic. As you recall, he failed to capture the AEW World title from Moxley. Now he's gunning for the TNT Championship. But one thing I like about the Dark Order, now they're becoming more of a much effective villainous faction who wants to conquer everything. As you know, they have much numbers. More like a different version from what the NWO or Bullet Club or any other faction we've seen. But I like where they're going with this. Next thing we have is for the AEW World Tag Team titles, Kenny Omega and Hangman Page put the titles on the line against Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy. Now, this was a fun match. As you know, Luchasaurus said that it's been 65 million years, now he's getting a title shot. So he was calling his mom. So I like to know who's Mama Luchasaurus she is. But this was a very interesting match. Of course, you cannot match the bigness of Luchasaurus and the way he's athletic when he throws backflips for a guy of his size. And of course, on the corner, we see Marco Stunt being sneaky as always. But of course, it was so interesting how this one is. I'm not saying it's one of the best, but it was a good match. So I know there's some great matches that we can see from for the tag team division, but I feel right now they should drop the titles and give it to someone else. But we'll talk about that some other time. But the winners for this one is Kenny Omega and Hangman Page. Next thing we have is the feud between Santana Ortiz and the Best Friends. As you know, a week ago, Santana and Ortiz lost to the Best Friends, and what they did is they destroyed Trent's mom's car. And when they heard about what the Best Friends said, Santana thought in his mind that Trent must be stupid, that he should apologize to his mom. He thinks that he's out of his mind. So basically, they continue their feud on this one. Next thing we have is the tag team appreciation type of ceremony. We had Young Bucks, FTR, the Rock and Roll Express, and of course, former Four Horsemen members, Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard. Now, the Bucks they always appreciated about tag teams over the years. But they did declare that the Rock and Roll Express were the first original Young Bucks. That to me, I always believe they look more like the Young Bucks. It's kind of very interesting to see that. But, that's the way I probably would have mentioned. And of course, FTR said the same thing about Tully and Arn Anderson. And everybody gave the veterans made their biggest speech. However, Tully went out and vented, calling FTR and the Young Bucks that they're stupid, that they declared themselves the best in the world. However, he made a point. None of them has the World Tag Team titles, which is a fair point. Young Bucks have tried, they lost. FTR hasn't yet. But of course, Tully still has his beef towards Arn Anderson. He hasn't forgotten what happened last year in All Out, where Arn Anderson spine bust Shawn Spears. Basically, for Tully, he felt betrayed because if you follow history, the Four Horsemen had a bit of a rivalry with Dusty Rhodes, better known as the American Dream, who is Cody's dad. As soon as Shawn Spears shows up, more of this thing was escalating. But the biggest shock was FTR attacking the Rock and Roll Express. Now, this probably was expected. For me, I wasn't sure when, but I feel like they paid the right timing for this. They took out the Rock and Roll Express. They don't know what is going on. So the FTR now becomes heels. So I think right now we're now jumping into the stepping stool of seeing the match that fans want to see. The Young Bucks versus FTR. Is this going to happen? I say make it happen at All Out. I would love to see it. So AEW, Tony Khan, make it happen. Next thing we see is the interview with Mike Chioda. I already mentioned Mike Chioda a few times on a bit of his history. As soon as he was giving his interview, here comes Jericho. As you know, Jericho is in a match against Orange Cassidy. So what Chris Jericho thinks he's smart. He tried to tell Mike Chioda he owed him one, saying that he was the one who saved his life from his previous employer. And he's asking him, when the time is right, look the other way. So, as Jericho's trying to be sneaky, he thinks that he can get away trying to have Mike Chioda. So the real question is, was it going to happen? Well, we'll get to that soon. Next thing we see is a match between Hikaru Shida versus local wrestler here in SoCal, Heather Monroe. If you guys are not familiarized with her, she and Laura James are part of a tag team called the Killer Bays. So if you're not familiarized, you can see her on YouTube. She's been with Championship Wrestling from Hollywood and several others. But yes, so she faced Hikaru Shida. It was a good match, but I did like how this ended, where Hikaru Shida put her in some interesting submission move. It was a very interesting one. I would love to see her do that with any other woman. Post-match, for her when she won the match, is when she said, bring it on. She's looking for a much tougher challenge. There is one person that still hasn't passed yet. There's plenty more, but one who still has a rematch clause she hasn't cashed in yet, and I'm talking about Nyla Rose. Then we have Lance Archer and Jake Roberts. Again, Lance Archer still leaving carnage of bodies everywhere, where he, of course, has Jake Roberts take off the shirt that says, everybody dies. So it looks like the message is getting louder and louder as much as possible. Now let's jump into the main event, the $7,000 obligation match. As you know, the stipulation is this. If Orange Cassidy loses, he has to give Chris Jericho $7,000 for destroying his white jacket that he destroyed when he poured orange juice onto him. But the match was unbelievably amazing. I like what they were doing with this one. But the way it went, Cassidy was doing not his sloth style type, where he just does the slow things all that often. He took it to the full speed ahead on this one. And I was impressed how that happened. But the biggest moment happened is when Jericho brought Floyd, the baseball bat Floyd, and told Chiodas to look the other way. But of course, when he did, Mike Chioda grabbed the chair and Jericho nearly lost the match. But of course, throughout the match, it was already told the best friends in the inner circle were banned to be on ringside. Now, the best friends and Santana to continue to fight outside while Mike Chioda was being distracted. Here comes Hagar and slam him down, to ensure that Jericho wins. But it didn't happen that way. But all of a sudden, Cassidy took the pin and put him in the mousetrap. Now, there was a bit of a botch in that where Jericho nearly couldn't be put in that mousetrap. And all of a sudden, Orange Cassidy won the match. So this is one of Jericho's biggest upsets. So basically, Orange Cassidy doesn't have to pay Orange Cassidy duly squat. But the real question is this over between those two? Or Jericho will demand a rematch? He did not want to give Orange Cassidy a rematch, but a part of me tells me he will demand it. We'll just have to wait and see on the upcoming AEW Dynamite show that's not going to take place next Saturday. So right now, I'm going to end it right here with AEW. Let's move on to NXT. Alright, so we're getting started with NXT. So what the thing is, they started out with the recap from last week. Two of them, as you recall. The rivalry between Adam Cole and former Colts punter Pat McAfee got escalated. As you recall, apparently they said they buried the hatchet, but Pat continued to disrespect Cole. And the more it happened, Pat decided to punt Adam Cole, knocked him out. But it also relates to the biggest rivalry is between Keith Lee and Karrion Kross. This rivalry between them is now getting out of hand. So let's see what's going to happen for this particular NXT episode. So let's move on. First match was Karrion Kross along with Scarlett facing off against Danny Burch. Now, as you all know, Danny Burch is one tough SOB. He's a brawler from the British streets. You know this guy loves a fight. But however, this match was so psychological insane. Excuse me. Kross, the more Burch was putting him either trying to punch him or trying to submit him, it gives him strength. It's more like he feeds off of it, like a sick psychopath. But it was still not enough for Burch to put him away until Kross put him in a submission and ended that way. But as soon as the match was over, here comes Keith Lee, telling him he pleaded with Regal to put him in a match and takeover for the NXT Championship. He already signed the contract, so did William Regal. All that it required was him. So he left the contract for him to grab and read. Scarlett obtained it. And of course, Kross signed it and gave it back to Lee. But the thing that shocked everyone, as soon as Keith Lee tried to verify it, a fireball shows up and get him in his face. Karrion Kross struck again, but this time he intensified to violence. Now, all of this was happening with Keith Lee. They were following how he was doing. He was still hurt, all this and that. And Mia Yim, his real life girlfriend, was right there. Now, as soon as that was happening, they jump into the next match. Was Drake Maverick versus Killian Dane. Now, we haven't seen Drake ever since he couldn't beat Santos Escobar. But the match was intensified good. However, it was interrupted by the Undisputed Era. Cole, Fish, O'Reilly, and Strong. Cole is not a happy camper. He has been on a pissed off mode. What happened last week with Pat punting him. So he is demanding him in the match against him at TakeOver 30. So he's telling him that he's pleading him. He dares him to show up the following week. Now this is going to be a very interesting segment. This rivalry is going to go to the fullest. So I can't wait how they're going to go. Next match we have is a bit of a revenge match. Tyler Breeze, if you guys remember, about a week ago, Legado del Fantasma attacked, Breezango because they felt disrespected by them weeks ago when they dressed up as luchadors, believing that Breezango, who thinks they're mocking them, making fun of Lucha Libre. They weren't. They just love to have fun. That's what they do. But no, Hijo del Fantasma, or should I say Santos Escobar, finds it as a sign of disrespect. So they attack Fandango and beat him to the pole. But Breezango, oh my God, he could have won the match, but thanks to Raul Mendoza and Joaquin Wilde getting involved, and they tried to take him out 3-on-1. And Breezango showed up with his arm already strapped with a stick of a broom in the other, and he tried to fight them off. But all of a sudden, the person to show up to save the day was Isaiah Swerve Scott. Reason is, Scott has a victory over Escobar during the Cruiserweight tournament. He hasn't forgotten. That match, Escobar is still haunted by that. So basically, he hasn't forgotten. So it's been announced the next NXT event will be Breezango teaming with Scott, taking on Legado del Fantasma. This will be interesting to see. Now, we have a little video dilemma. Now, Dakota Kai, as you know, has turned heel ever since War Games. She believes that the NXT women's division is hers. Io Shirai is nothing. That she is standing in the way of what she feels it's her God-given right. So she kicked her not once, but twice. So she said that she's in her head that she will become the NXT Women's Champion and prove once and for all that she's the best. So that is yet to be seen. Next thing we see is Ridge Holland. As you know, Ridge Holland was at the triple threat match last week, but he did not win. But he is part of the second chances. So he is set to face Johnny Gargano. Next thing we see, before this match started, we had Mia Yim. They wanted to know an update of Keith Lee's condition, but at the moment, Mia Yim has no time for that. She has to focus on her match against Indy Hartwell. So much of the match, Mia Yim was still trying to focus on the match, but she can't due to what happened to Keith Lee. So this is rather interesting how this is going to go. But the match went into Mia Yim's favor, so she won. So we'll see how this one's going to go. Next thing we have, Finn Balor. As you know, Finn Balor is also going to be part of the second chances. So whoever loses one of the two participant in this triple series will face Finn Balor in the second chances series. So, however, then we have Bronson Reed versus Damian Priest. Now, as you know, these two men are in the inside the ladder match for the North American Championship. Damian Priest won greatly, but however, he considers Bronson Reed a guy who won his match against Johnny Gargano and Roderick Strong. He considered his match a fluke. Reason he says that was believing that both Roderick and Gargano are both champions. He believes there is no way a guy like him could have beat them. Maybe so. So this match was set, but it was a battle of the Bohemians. Now, I still don't know how this was going to end, but somehow I did expect it. It was Bronson Reed. He took the victory, so now there's no excuses. Was this match with Damian Priest a fluke? The answer is no. But to Damian Priest, maybe he will consider it as a fluke. We'll just wait and see where they're going to go with it. Then we got Io Shirai, who sends a loud and clear message about Dakota Kai, telling her she hasn't forgotten what happened. But the message is clear. But she did state it about what of a manipulated person she is. She said her betrayal towards Tegan Nox and Candice. Did those two actually knew her? Did she use them? That is a fair point. That hasn't crossed my mind. But it is a fair point. So basically, Io Shirai is pissed. So this is going to be one killer match. Io Shirai, who's trying to prove that she's the best, that she deserves to be there. Dakota Kai saying she is the most deserving of them all, that this is her NXT, her time. But Io Shirai did state it. She was afraid of Shayna Baszler. So I'm assuming she might want to use that kind of tactic on her. So we just got to wait and see. Then we had Aaliyah and Mercedes Martinez of the Robert Stone brand facing off against Kaden Carter and KZ Cantizaro. Now, Robert Stone, before the match started, he talked to Cassie, telling her why she hanging out with Kaden. She's a loser. So she deserves to be a star, but Cassie wouldn't betray her best friend. So this match was alright, but however, nobody can beat the match the capabilities of Mercedes Martinez. However, when the match was over, here comes the Nightmare herself, Rhea Ripley, who hasn't forgotten that she cost her a chance of the NXT Women's Championship thanks to what she did. So the rivalry was going worse. Now, it became a 2-on-1 scenario, but out of nowhere, another victim of the Robert Stone brand showed up. Shotzi Blackheart came out and even the odds, aligned herself with Rhea Ripley. They both have a common factor. They both can't stand the Robert Stone brand. So this is going to be a very interesting storyline, how they're going to go. Next thing we have is the Garganos. As you know, they keep saying that they are willing to change the NXT, trying to save it, make it into the Gargano way. Candice LeRae still has her beef towards Tegan. Now, if you don't know what is that about, a few weeks ago, when the Garganos were in a feud towards Lee and Mia Yim, Tegan Knox showed up bringing a box of pizza, getting involved in their feud. But it wasn't like, she did it intentionally. She was just doing a favor. But Candice LeRae thinks that she crossed the line. She tried to stay out of it, but she just did a favor. But of course, Candice doesn't see it. And yet again, she felt that Candice is getting opportunities. But she lost against Io Shirai. So now this is going to be an interesting segment. And as for Johnny, he has a match against Rich Holland, who is part of the series, who's going to be part of the ladder match for the NXT TakeOver. He believes he will beat Rich Holland because he is far more better than him. So that is yet to be seen. So that is done with the Gargano. So let's keep moving forward to the next segment. Now we got the Triple Threat Series for the North American Championship. Now, Cameron Grimes believed that if he wins this match, he's going straight to the moon. So he is one of the participants. Next one was Kushida. Now, I would have loved to see Kushida. However, there was still the mystery opponent, and the third participant, is Velveteen Dream. We haven't seen him for 2 months due to the allegations against him. So, he was in it. It was a good match, but, however, much of the match was revolving Kushida trying to put both men in submissions to win the match. But Cameron Grimes always take advantage of an open shot, so he took out Kushida, and he won the victory, yelling that he's going to the moon. He hasn't won the title yet. He has to go against other participants. Post-match, Velveteen Dream grabs a mic and started slapping Kushida. He is not a happy camper. He blamed him for all of this to happen. He felt that it should have been him going, not Cameron Grimes. But as soon as he tried to take him out, it appears an old feud has reignited. I'm talking about Velveteen Dream and Finn Balor. Now, originally, months ago, they were supposed to have this rivalry between them, but of course, it didn't happen. So, looks like the feud is now reigniting. So, that is it for NXT. Let's go to the final thoughts. Okay, so what are my thoughts of these two shows? Are they good? I have to say AEW had the most interesting stories as always, because the reason is always the stories I pay attention with AEW. Like, for example, if you recall the whole thing with FTR and the Young Bucks, that's something we've been always paying attention. When is their dream match going to happen? The dream match between who is the best tag team in the world, FTR or the Young Bucks. And then you look at the story with Mr. Brody Lee. Now he's wants to make a statement. He tried that with Jon Moxley. He failed. He sent out his goons, Reynolds and Silver, to take out Cody, but it didn't work. So basically, there are certain stories are becoming interesting. I think the best one, in my opinion, is the one between, well, there's two, MJF and Jon Moxley, the Orange Cassidy and Jericho feud. So those are two of the best I've seen so far. But like I said when I talked about AEW, is this the end of Jericho and Cassidy's feud? Because Jericho's the kind of guy who will not take a loss lightly. He already lost twice, or should I say 3 times. First time against Scorpio Sky. Second, Jon Moxley. Now, Orange Cassidy. But he looks at Cassidy as the guy he should not have been losing. He wants to embarrass him, make him feel that Orange Cassidy is nothing but a loser. He's done. But it didn't happen that way. As for Moxley and MJF has been trying to say to everyone that he should be the rightful champion. Moxley is nothing but a dictator. He doesn't care about the fan base. He doesn't care about anybody but himself. I mean, Moxley did state it. When he beat Jericho for the title, he didn't win it for himself. He win it for the people. But MJF feels, no, you win it for yourself. Because Jericho thinks all of this is all about him. That's the kind of psychology thing that's been going. Now, as for NXT, some great matches, in-ring matches, like I have to say, like the triple threat match. No, scratch that. The Bronson and Damian Reed was good. And also the way with Karrion Kross putting that psychopathic nutcase that he is, it's unbelievable. So there were some good matches. So basically AEW had two different dynamics that works. AEW had the better stories. NXT had the better match, the better wrestling in-ring work, as you call it. So they're both evenly matched. Some stories I don't like for example that whole thing with Velveteen Dream doing that with Kushida. That didn't make any sense. I mean, it should not have happened this sooner, but it did. So that's my thoughts about AEW and NXT. So but since I said before there will be no Wednesday Night War this week due to the NBA having their NBA Finals this week, AEW will have their Dynamite show on August 22nd, which is a Saturday. They'll be competing against NXT TakeOver 30. So this will be interesting. So you guys better tune in. I know I am. So right now, I'm going to end it here so I can give you guys some news updates. Alright, here's some news updates for all of you guys. As you guys been following Shotzi Blackheart's Twitter page, as you know, 2 days ago her car was stolen. It obtained her wrestling gear and the infamous helmet that she uses when she comes out into the wrestling ring. It happened around in her apartment complex, so she didn't know what to do. So she showed up in her street clothes at the Full Sail. But luckily yesterday, she was notified by the Orlando Police Department that they found her car. So she went down there, she on YouTube, to confirm if this is really her car. The only thing she said she posted on her video, thanks to Jake Atlas, who took it there and videotaped. The only thing that mattered to her is to find the helmet. She said that helmet meant a lot to her because she got it from where she trained. And luckily it was, so she's happy she got her helmet back. It means a lot to her. I mean, it kind of put her into a scare mode, but luckily she got it back. Now, in relations to WWE, as you all know, recently, about a month or two ago, WWE has purchased independent promotion Evolve. Now, that promotion has been well known throughout the entire independent scenes with great wrestlers that appeared, wrestlers who've been on many promotions. But however, they have a very strong affiliation with WWE. As you know, the owner and promoter, Gabe Kaspolsky, was part of WWE, so he works as an NXT. So now WWE purchases. Now it's been revealed that the other affiliation promotions, the independent ones, I'm referring to Progress Wrestling out of the UK, Insane Championship Wrestling out of Scotland, and of course WXW from Germany, are now, all four of these promotions will be on the WWE network. Now, the real question I'm asking all of you guys, are you going to watch these promotions on the network? Personally, if it was me, I would watch it because I feel more appreciated of the independence. Unlike WWE, they just don't like they feel like they should control everything. But I just hope they don't ruin how we remember these promotions from the very beginning when we first started watching them. And that's one of the key things. Now, I've seen already people on social media. Some say they will, some say they don't. But the real question for you guys, are you going to watch it on a WWE network? If you are, that's good. If you're not, I understand. So that's pretty much it for that. Now let's move on to the next that relates to AEW. So as you know, recently now, AEW has released 3 wrestlers so far. They released Jimmy Havoc, B. Priestley, and Sadie Gibbs. Now, Jimmy Havoc, as you recall, he was involved when someone spoke out about him, was accused during the speaking out movement that he raped, sexual abuse, all this. He was sent to rehab, but apparently AEW has reevaluated his position being there, so they may decided just to release him. Now, is this something personal? No. Mostly, I feel maybe they're more worried that what if he doesn't complete or gets better due to whatever problems he's suffering. So I understand that, and the AEW are trying to do what is right, not only for themselves, but what's best for the business. And the other two that were released, we had B. Priestley and Sadie Gibbs. Now, as you know, there was a strong altercation in one of the events between Sadie Gibbs and B. Priestley. Now, the the reasons of the release is still unknown. Now, we haven't seen B. Priestley in AEW for a while now, not since March of last year. Same thing with Gibbs. But as you know, I've been following B. Priestley. She had made a very appearances with the promotion Stardom. She actually is their top guy Gene down there. As for Sadie, not much, but I have followed her on her Instagram page. She's been mostly been traveling the world with friends, family, or her boyfriend. So it's still unclear what's the real reasons. But I do know Sadie Gibbs did state that there's no animosity, there's no problem. She was grateful for her time. She thanked Tony Khan at AEW for giving her an opportunity. So I am sure that maybe down the line for the women's division, they will try to figure out how to make this even stronger. So that's something we can talk about another time. Now, the last thing of the news updates I want to do, as you know, since the pandemic started, they've been using some wrestlers as jobbers. And one of these jobbers that we know is Pineapple Pete, or as some people call Sugar D. This whole thing happened when he started having a feud with Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho was referring to Sugar D as Pineapple Pete because of his hair and the pineapple shirts he's been wearing. So he's been with the company for 6 months, not as a full-time roster, but more of the guy who loses his match. But he did stated that his time there is done. AEW hasn't said if they want to use him, but I feel that maybe there are those that would love to see him there. I mean, I don't know how you guys would feel about that, but this is not the end for Shug D, or should I say Pineapple Pete. We will see him down the line in the future in some other promotion, hopefully soon. So that's pretty much it, what's going to happen. Now, I hope you guys enjoy this episode for the Wednesday Night War. As you know, there won't be no Wednesday Night War this coming Wednesday. It's going to be just Saturday. Let's call this one Saturday Night War, since there's 2 shows that will be there. So, as for now, I must bid all of you adieu. So, goodbye. Stay safe. Wash your hands. And have a nice day. Bang.